Right, well, this story will come at you in waves of madness. Crazy Ed Miliband has admitted that the solar panels he wants to cover every school in, it was 200 schools. He wants to cover their roofs with solar panels. Also 200 more NHS buildings, so about 400 buildings altogether. You want all the roofs covered in solar panels because it's very good for the planet. The problem is that he's admitted that these solar panels, we'll get them from China, and that they will be made using coal-fueled power. So they're not ecological at all.
No, of course not. And isn't an element of them plastic, which is made by oil?
That as well, yeah.
So it's not very clever, is it, really? And what happens when it's dark? I know we talked about this several times before.
Plastic is one thing, but if the whole thing is made by coal-fueled power, then,
they've got a massive carbon
then you're
footprint.
Not doing anything to save the planet.
And then did you see the pictures recently of the solar farm that was destroyed by hail?
Yeah.
So then there's an element of these things not having a very long life, whether it be the photoelectric cells or the glass itself. A bit like windmills. People think that they're the answer to everything, but of course they have a massive carbon footprint and they only last a certain period of time.
And they're made in China using coal-fueled power.
And concrete.
China has got nearly 1,200 coal-fueled power stations, and it's building 300 more. You get anything made in China, those coal-fueled power stations are behind the product, so you immediately buy from China, you're helping to destroy the planet. So there's a massive element of hypocrisy in this in terms of Ed Miliband. This project, though, to stick solar panels on 400 roofs, 200 of them schools, will cost £180 million. It's going to be undertaken by his mysterious Quango company, GB Energy. Now, Ed, as you know, says that this company is going to, sort out any unemployment problem that we might have, because it will provide jobs for 650,000 people. Now, GB Energy was formed back in last July. How many months ago is that? 8, 9, something like that, 8 months ago. So 650 employees. The number of employees it's got so far is 1. He is their chairman, Jürgen Meyer. So 649,999 staff still to go to make the 650,000 target. He's currently, old Ed, is advertising for a chief executive of GB Energy. That job will pay £525,000 a year, more than £500,000 a year, 3 times what the Prime Minister earns. So what we've got here is a dysfunctional company that doesn't actually hire anyone. And clearly doesn't have any employees to carry out this mammoth task of sticking solar panels on the roofs of 200 schools. So how is it going to do it? God only knows.
Can I tell you what else it doesn't do?
What?
It doesn't produce any energy.
Well, yeah.
GB Energy is not an energy company.
Well,
GB Energy is effectively a hedge fund. So the person they will hire at great expense, £525,000 plus bonuses, no doubt, will be some kind of financial services guy, someone that's worked in private equity or in hedge funds. This is effectively giving our money. Let's be clear, it's not government money, it's our money.
Well, when you say it's a hedge fund, I mean...
it's a fund. So what they're doing is...
I'm glad you know. So you know what it is?
I do.
Well, what is it?
It's a fund, so they're taking taxpayers' money, a great subsidy, so it's our money, be clear. It's not government money, no such thing as government money, our money, and then what they do is use that money to attract other companies by way of investment to come to Britain to produce energy. So it's the third-party companies that produce the energy.
How's that a fund then?
Well, it's a fund because they're investing in those other companies. So in other words, they find a solar farm or a wind farm, they invest in it. I don't understand that. So that they give them part of our money, so taxpayers' money, in order to attract those companies to come to Britain to produce energy.
Why does that require 650,000 staff?
Well, no, they're counting the staff that will be related to the companies that they invest in.
Well, no, he says that GB Energy will provide jobs for 650,000
Oh, it will, but indirectly. GB Energy is not...
No, it won't.
It won't. Well, it won't. Of course it won't. But so imagine so for instance, the solar farm that Ed Miliband has just given Dale Vince permission for in Lincolnshire, which is 100 acres of solar panels, that is a really good example. So that on its own doesn't make any financial sense unless you take a big dollop of taxpayer cash, give it to Dale Vince and say, now we're giving you that money, would you please invest in this solar farm? So it's GB Energy's money, which is our money, going to people like Dale Vince so that they can then come along, so that Ed Miliband the next day can say, look what I've produced.
Why have they got to give it to Dale Vince? Why can't they do it themselves?
Because it doesn't work without subsidy from the government.
Well, why can't...
So it's a bit like electric cars.
So
they don't stand on their own 2 feet without us saying, hey, here's a 100% tax write-off, now buy a Tesla.
So if Dale Vince loses the money, all he's done is lost government money?
Effectively. Well, he'll put his own money in as well, but the government money, subsidy, is part of the funding. So it's a bit like having a new business, Kevin O'Sullivan Solar Panels, and saying...
So that's all it's going to do?
It is a fund. That is all it is. It does not produce any energy whatsoever.
Well, I kind of knew that, but... That's all it's going to do, give money to people like Dale Vince.
Yep. And Chinese companies that produce, you know, wind farms and wind turbines and solar panels and so on. It is, I'm afraid, a sleight of hand. Who knew?
Well, I think everybody knew that it, because when it was first announced, everybody thought, well, this will be like the government power company that if you want to, like British Gas or whatever, you can sign up to GB Energy and get your power, your electricity, your gas and all that, but apparently not.
Nope.
No, I mean, well, we already did know that it wasn't that. We just assumed it was that.
Yeah. And this only works because...
Well, how much money has it got then?
I don't know. But this only works because sustainable energy is unviable. So, you know, wind, I mean, you know, we have to pay, as I'm sure you do, lots of money to wind farm owners to turn wind turbines off when they're spinning too fast because the national grid can't take the surge in power.
Millions a month.
All of that stuff. You know, the fact that solar panels don't work...
millions a week, actually.
Yeah, so solar panels, guess what, don't work at 6 o'clock on a November evening. Why? Because there's no sun. So all of this stuff is just a cocked hat of
don't
rubbish.
Work in June, July and August as well for the same reason. Yeah.
So that is why the whole thing has to be subsidised, like electric cars and electric car network, by the government, which, again, I'll remind you, is our money. The whole thing is a complete and utter fraud.
So the government is going to give GB Energy a load of money to give away.
Well, GB Energy is the government.
Yeah, but they can't just... And what are they going to do? Give them what? How much money?
It's part of the lunacy net zero budget, isn't it?
Possibly.
You know, and carbon capture, £22 billion worth of carbon capture costs. That'll be funneled through GB Energy.
That's a different thing, though, isn't it? Oh, well, that may be, but I just don't quite see. Are they just going to give them billions of pounds to hand away?
Because then Ed Miliband can stand there with his guitar in front of a wind turbine in a few weeks' time saying, look at all the money we've invested in sustainable energy, even though it doesn't actually work.
That is, if you look at the way they define GB Energy, that isn't the way they define it.
Read the words carefully.
I say this as somebody who, like nearly everybody, has never quite understood what the hell it's supposed to be.
There you go, and they're relying on that, aren't they? It's a hypothetical. It's a bit of a pipe dream. It's academic, but basically it is an investment.
There you go. GB Energy is a publicly owned energy company proposed by the Labour government to invest in clean energy projects. They plan for it to act.
But it's not an energy company. So that's wrong. It's not an energy company because they're not producing energy.
It's not a company right now. It's only got one employee.
But the word there is invest. See?
Thank you very much, Russell Quirk. Another great hour here.